Today, I'm super excited to be hosting Avantika Koloru, a colleague for over 2.5 years. She was at Edbrand, working as a senior engagement manager with students and parents who she had to often guide in very difficult circumstances as part of the mentoring program that we run. So, welcome, Avantika. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Nice to be here. So I'm Avantika. I graduated from Ashoka University with a degree in economics and international relations. Right after that, of course, I joined Edbrand, worked with Arjun, and worked with a bunch of students to kind of help them discover their interests outside of school. Following that, I spent a year working at an early stage Edtech startup. And yeah, happy to chat about that further.
Yeah, I think having that grassroots level interaction with students for almost 3 years at Edbrand. Uh, what do you think like makes a good mentor? You can also reflect back with your days at Ashoka or during internships that you had pursued. What defines? Did it help you understand mentorship in a deeper sense?
Yes, definitely. I think that I for sure definitely worked with really different types of students in terms of their needs, motivations, and their interests as well. So I think in terms of what would make a good mentor, the one I think skill that kind of screams out to me is patience. I think it takes a lot of time and consistent effort to really kind of one connect with a student because building that rapport is really necessary in order to actually get through to them and kind of help them in a meaningful way and two, patience in terms of being able to actually kind of get to the root of what it is that it excites them and what it is that they really want to do. I think that is something that would be required in mentorship a lot, and maybe even creativity. So, how if you need to find new ways to work with a student or to get through to them or to inspire them, I think there's always a scope for you have to find new ways to do that.
So
Yeah.
that was something that you took away perhaps from your work at Edbrand. But what about the new EdTech venture you were part
Yeah.
of? How did that contribute to or extend that learning or broaden your skill set? And what was it about? So if you can explain
Yeah.
to those this and what your role
Sure. So I was working at a startup called Studios. We were building a platform to help students access finance for higher education degrees. Um, in terms of how my learnings extended there, so I think, of course, it wasn't a lot of one-on-one interaction with the students that we were trying to help, as opposed to what was happening at Edbrand. But when you're building a product for someone, there's definitely the need for that empathy to come through, to kind of understand, okay, I'm building this platform, the student has certain needs. So I think having that experience back me up in terms of, okay, I have a sense of what it is that students are looking for when they're applying to colleges or when certain apprehensions that they have in terms of their uh, learning needs, etc. So I think having that empathy for the ultimate user of your platform is really essential. So I think that has to kind of guide you a lot when you're building the product and actually getting it up and running. Yeah.
product management is such an important piece, and at a very young age, you were exposed to that. What are the other things other than empathizing with the proposed user
Hmm.
that you think makes product management exciting and also challenging?
Yeah. um, what makes it exciting is I think, especially if you're working at a really early stage venture like I was, you're building something pretty much out of nothing. So there's a lot of thinking and I think strategizing involved, which entails really understanding the market, kind of deep diving, seeing what's happening in other organizations, and seeing how you can actually create value through your product. So that's pretty exciting. That if you really like creating something new, there's definitely the scope to do that in product management. Um, I think what makes it challenging, of course, is that there's definitely different moving parts. So you kind of have to be responsible for bringing everything together. So whether that's you work with an engineering team or a design team, and you have to communicate certain like a vision that you have and see that it's actually executed. Um, it to a great quality, and meeting certain deadlines, making sure that you're able to kind of follow through on that. So it's definitely challenging in that sense because it requires a lot of, I think, coordination. But it's a pretty exciting space. I mean, I think I was only there for, or I got the experience for about a year. But from my experience, it was pretty good. Yeah.
If you can sort of do an overview of the edtech industry, and being in it, you would have, you know, mulled about it or had access to resources or access to conversations that you've had in this space with other people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of always a little suspicious how edtech companies are operating, or what value are they actually adding.
Yeah.
Whereas the venture you were part of has a fairly interesting and a noble sort of goal. Uh, what are your views on edtech industry as such? And I know it's such a general question, but I'd love to hear your take.
Um, I know that, I mean, edtech is really booming right now. You hear of in the last few years, you've just heard of I've heard of so many organizations come up, and it's definitely, I think it's going hand in hand with like the startup culture that we're seeing a lot in India now, with a lot of new ventures coming about. Um, yes, I think sometimes I also wonder to what degree certain, I think, products or services, etc., would be useful. I think ultimately, if you're chasing learning outcomes or well-being outcomes, etc., I think that should be the ultimate goal. So I think I need to learn a bit more in that sense of, or see if I can track that a bit closer and see what's really happening. Are students really benefiting from everything that's out there? Of course, with any industry, you'll have certain players that are really successful and good at doing that, and some that are still kind of figuring their way out. Yeah.
So, working at startups, especially in the tech space, launching products or designing new products, how how important is further education? Like, why do you think, say, an MBA or a master's degree in, say, business would be important or useful? If someone is planning to do an MBA, what would you think would be the course of thinking or rationalizing and making that choice?
Yeah. I think there would be a couple of things. Of course, if you want to maybe get into like product management, etc., it's not necessary for you to have an MBA. I'm sure you can kind of through the course of your work experience, get into organizations that you'd like to. But of course, I think the benefit with the MBA is that you're you're really kind of sharpening those management or business skills that you really need in a role like that. So, like I said, it doesn't involve a lot of collaboration. It does involve a certain degree of influential communication to be able to get other stakeholders on your side and say that I think this is what we should be building, or I think this is of most value. This is a strategy that we should go forward with, etc. So, to my knowledge, and I think chatting with friends who've already completed MBA programs, you definitely go through that in the program, and you that's definitely a part of it, especially because you're meeting people, and if you study abroad as well, you end up meeting people from different walks of life, and from different countries, and they have really varied experiences, so there's a lot to learn from the cohort of people that you also are surrounded with. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing these insights, Avantika. I'm looking forward to having more such discussions in the years to come.
Yeah,
Take
definitely.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.